WNST to help but go out to Canton, Ohio over the weekend with our 4 busloads of Ravens fans and waiting for Ray Lewis to give his little TED talk at the end of a Saturday night. And we know Ed Reed will be going. We're looking at Terrell Suggs, maybe down the line Marshall Yanda. But certainly I think the next sort of coronation will be Peyton Manning and then Tom Brady. And Tom Brady's still on the field at this point. We have no idea when that ceremony is going to be happening. But this guy has one of the best-selling books in America right now. He is Casey Sherman. The book is 12, and you can find it pretty much anywhere books are sold out there at this point, and it is all about Tom Brady, the inside story of Tom Brady's season of redemption. Casey Sherman joins us from my wife's homeland of New England on the eve of another year where we just assume the Patriots are going to be the best team in the AFC. Right? I mean, that's kind of the way it goes. Right, Casey?
Well, they're certainly the favorites, but, what we're seeing in Foxborough is something that we've never seen before, and that is the beginning of the fractured relationships between the coach and the quarterback. Now, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, the greatest coach, the greatest quarterback in NFL history, they've always had a really good working relationship based on mutual admiration. They've never been close friends. But now they're sworn enemies within the walls of Fortress Foxborough.
Sworn enemies. That sounds very tabloid to me. I find that very hard to sustain moving. I mean, I think there's some friction there that probably serves them both well, quite frankly.
Well, Tom Brady always, lets that anxiety motivate him, during, obviously with his competitive spirit, but it's what Tom Brady's not saying on the field during press conferences that is speaking volumes. When asked about his relationship with the coach, he's not, giving the company line anymore. He's saying no comment. So there is a deep-seated division there between the coach and the quarterback. Now, can they work through it? Probably so. And I think that, they will be the favorite to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. But I'm not sure that both men will be with the organization next season, especially if the Patriots win the Super Bowl this coming season.
It is fascinating emotions and stuff. I'm partners with Brian Billick here at WNST. Ray Lewis gives a speech and doesn't mention his name, doesn't mention Terrell Suggs' name, doesn't mention Marvin Lewis's name. I don't know that any of that happens once Tom Brady goes, and certainly Belichick's going to go to the Hall of Fame. So, that all came clear to me the other night as Belichick was there sort of behind the scenes as well. I find this to be sort of a fascinating time for both of them because everything they've done together has been unprecedented, really. The longevity of it all, the success of it all, the sort of shadow of cheating and improprieties and taping, and, teams think that they're being spied upon when they come into Foxborough. Certainly John Harbaugh around here has a pretty good sense of paranoia also. Deflategate and all that came out of that with Dean Pease and Chuck Pagano and the Ravens organization, the Colts organization at that time. There's always been sort of a palace intrigue as to what goes on up there, but this is made much more clear by the story of the trainers, the training regimen, Tom Brady's entourage, where he wants to go with this TB12 stuff that he believes is going to be the next thing for him over the next 10 or 15 years when he gets off the field. Not that he or his wife need any money, but, they have sort of brought a lot of this drama on themselves, have they not?
Well, I mean, you talk about his entourage. Basically, Tom Brady has an entourage of one, which is Alex Guerrero, his partner in TB12, and Bill Belichick has all but locked Alex Guerrero out of the facility, metaphorically speaking, of course. Now, I think the relationship obviously focuses on, the Alex Guerrero sidebar to it, but what really I think angers Bill Belichick is that Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, forced Belichick's hand last season to trade away the heir apparent to Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, to the San Francisco 49ers for a second-round pick. And the reason why Kraft did that is pretty interesting as well. That does go all the way back to Deflategate, and we detail this, very carefully in our book. Our book 12 unfolds like a John Grisham thriller. There's a lot of behind the scenes maneuvering from Tom Brady's legal team to the coaching staff to the ownership, etc. Well, Robert Kraft, as we all remember, threatened the NFL with a lawsuit and was really doing everything he could to back his quarterback until he didn't. And he gets up in front of the TV cameras in San Francisco at the ownership meetings and says he is going to give up the fight against the NFL. Now, everybody observing this drama as it unfolded was surprised and taken aback by Kraft's comments. And so was Tom Brady. Tom Brady was not given a heads up by his owner that he was going to do this. So Brady picks up his phone, calls DeMaurice Smith, the executive director of the NFLPA, and says, what the bleep? Why can't anybody support me on this? So Brady initially felt very betrayed by his owner. That relationship has repaired quite a bit. We've spent some time with Robert Kraft working on this book and his son Jonathan, and we saw some real love there between the ownership and the quarterback. And I think Robert Kraft, when it came down to it, was willing to, provide the ultimate olive branch to Tom Brady by forcing his direct competition out of town.
Casey Sherman is my guest. You can find him out on Twitter at Casey Sherman123. The book is 12, The Inside Story of Tom Brady's Fight for Redemption, written along with Dave Wedge. Casey Sherman is joining us now from Boston, also the authors of Boston Strong and a bunch of other books that you can check out there, New York Times bestsellers. In the case of the Patriots, and look, I'm woven into this thing through the Ravens connection, right? The Cundiff miss, beating them up there, the Ray Rice run a number of years ago, a decade ago now. And it just feels like they're still going to be there 5 or 10 years from now. That's impossible. I mean, we are at the end of this movie. We're coming to the end of the movie, right? It's the 2-minute warning or whatever. And you wonder how much longer this can go on, how many more championships they can win, and how they can hold the egos together, right? I mean, Robert Kraft is getting older. He's lost his wife. He's also a guy that has fought a little bit, as you've pointed out, for control and not control, and Jerry and the other owners and the new guard and the old guard, and how the stadium got built up there and all the things that Robert Kraft has added to this. But there's always been this walking on the wild side with murderers in their locker room, cheating, and guys in trees with cameras and all of that stuff that went on behind this. That sort of brings guys like you around wanting to write books about what you're seeing is not what you're getting. Pretty much what we're getting from our government right now. That there's one story on the front and there's a completely different story in the back. And the public is led to believe this through these stories, but they certainly piece together in this case. I mean, I'm buying what you're selling to a large degree, but I don't buy that it affects them when they go and play football on Sunday, because I think they hate losing too much to get too pissy
I agree
with
you
each
there,
other.
Nestor, and I will say that, equally compelling is what we found out about the NFL. You want to talk about palace intrigue? Roger Goodell is a very Nixonian character. Somebody that will do anything to attain power and do anything to retain power. And the lengths that the NFL went to tear down this guy's career for what was basically an equipment violation. Deflating and inflating footballs really doesn't have any bearing on competitive performance, especially when you're talking about a guy like Tom Brady. Spygate, totally different.
By the way, I dispute
Spygate
that
was a
greatly.
big scandal.
I dispute that greatly. I've talked to too many running backs that talk about not fumbling because the ball's squishier, and that's Ernest Biner down the line. I dispute that. I think taking air out of the football was a tremendous advantage for them, and I think it plays out in fumbles.
I wouldn't call it a tremendous advantage for them. You look at the AFC title game where that accusation and allegation took place. The second half of that game, Brady lit the Indianapolis Colts defense on fire. So there's really, in terms of
I think it had less to do with Brady throwing the ball than running the ball. That is my point. My point is it's always brought to his, and you can bring the numbers up. You can bring up Tom Brady can throw football anytime, anywhere. He's the if not the greatest among the greatest, then why cheat?
No, he's the greatest. You can't. I mean, it's ridiculous to even debate the fact right now. And I again, getting back to my point, Nestor, is that the fix was already in. The NFL had its chess pieces already placed on the board. They had already concluded their investigation before they even began it. Now, as I said, Spygate, totally different deal. That was a serious controversy and certainly something that was giving the Patriots competitive edge on and off the field. And Goodell swept that scandal under the rug because of his very close relationship with Robert Kraft. Now, the other NFL owners looked at that, saw collusion there, and said to themselves, and then, let that be known to Roger Goodell if this ever happens again, if the Patriots are ever accused of anything else untoward, then Goodell has to go after them and grab them by the throat, and that's exactly what Goodell tried to do.
Casey Sherman is our guest. The book is 12. Moving forward for this, where's this going to end? As you see it, I just went to the Hall of Fame where Ray Lewis, we saw the end for him on Saturday, right? The jacket, the bust, the speech, the TED Talk, the people he thanks, the people he doesn't thank, whether it matters or not if your name gets dropped or whether any of this matters. They've all made hundreds of millions of dollars. They should be living good lives the rest of their way. But the legacy of the Patriots is going to be talked about 5, 10, 15 years from now because guys are going to be going to the Hall of Fame this time every year. And wherever this thing ends for them.
They've really had an unparalleled string of success going back 18 years.
It's incredible. It really is.
The Beatles broke up after 8 years. The fact that the Patriots could keep it together for 18 is mind-boggling. And obviously, every relationship like that certainly doesn't end on the best terms. But to your point, when I think Tom Brady and I think Bill Belichick, when they don those yellow jackets for the first time, they will acknowledge the incredible help and assistance that each has given the other to create this unparalleled level of success.
Well, Brady knows enough to know his guy's not coming back in the locker room, right? And Belichick still has control of this thing, and as long as he's there, you will have control of this thing. So what do you see for the season? I mean, and is this the last season as you see it?
I think it could be the last season if they win the Super Bowl. Then I think that one of them will leave. Probably Brady walking off into the sunset on the ultimate high. If they don't win, we'll see how the relationship between Kraft and Belichick unfolds and continues during the season. Belichick will always feel slighted because he had a window of another 10, possibly 15 years with a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo, and that was taken away from him by the owner to placate the quarterback. So we'll see if Belichick just doesn't throw up his hands at the end of the season and walk away. He's being held a heck of a lot more accountable by reporters this year based on that really unusual and bizarre benching of his top defensive player in the Super Bowl last year, where Tom Brady threw for 500 yards and certainly had them in contention to win that game. And Brady and his other teammates feel that was stolen from them because Belichick had a personal grudge against Malcolm Butler and refused to play him.
Yeah, again, palace intrigue just sort of leads everywhere, and there's so much media around the Patriots, and I think that's a real tribute to what they've accomplished because I think much like the Red Sox, and I've covered baseball extensively for 3 decades as well, it always got heavier being a Red Sox, always heavier being a Yankee or whatever in that environment, and I never saw the Patriots as that way until maybe 5 years ago. I thought they sort of got away with the first handful of championships as just another team, and you thought it was going to end, and you thought it was just going to be 2 or 3 or whatever, and here we are 18 years later, and they are their own cottage industry for sort of insider trading because they've all been there so long.
Right, and you either love them or you love to hate them, but either way, the Patriots are always the number one story in the biggest sports league in the world. So they've always got the spotlight directly on them. Tom Brady has done, an incredible job, in my opinion, for 18 years, basically keeping out of the fray. He's never been in trouble off the field. He's never had any controversies, never any arrests, never accused of domestic assault like so many other football players. He's never caught up in, merchandise scandals like Eli Manning was in New York. He's kept himself pretty clean, but the Deflategate scandal certainly added an asterisk to his career not necessarily in New England, but certainly in other places, and that continues to anger him and continues to drive his competitive edge.
Well, you mentioned the Nixonian, sort of thing, and certainly what's going on with our country right now, where lies and covers ups and lies, and I see these guys as sort of cut from that cloth, and it's no secret why they would support this. Cheating is just sort of. It's not cheating if you don't get caught, literally. And I think that that's been brought onto this thing for 20 years as well. And I think that there is a part of that is offensive to other people. I know it was offensive to Brian Billick when Belichick got caught, and people would say, well, they all do that. And Brian would say, no, we don't all do that. None of us do that. We're appalled by it.
Well, I would say none of them do that, but certainly not the majority of NFL coaches. And, Belichick skirted, a clear rule and had been warned by the NFL ahead of time. So Belichick thought he was smarter than Goodell, smarter than the league, and went about, did his own thing, got caught, and rightfully so. But he was, Belichick was not punished as severely as Tom Brady was punished for, allegedly deflating footballs. It's absolutely ridiculous to equate the two. Now, Deflategate, in the public's mind is the biggest sports scandal since the 1919 Black Sox scandal, where you had Chicago White Sox players throwing a World Series. So to equate the two is ridiculous, but in the public's mind and in the media's mind, they do compare, which I think is a real disgrace.
Well, I think, repeated cheating is offensive. And that's not the Raven fan in me or, for the Steelers, for any fan base, for anyone, repeatedly trying to cheat and getting caught. And I go back to spitballs and, I think stealing signs might be a little different. I think reading lips might be a little different. And I know that everyone has their own sense of all of that. And the football thing, look, I'm not calling it the Black Sox scandal, but I think when you have this level of sustained success and you're cheating and you've been caught cheating before, and I've been talking about this on the radio for 5 years now, it does paint a different color on how you got success and where the success came from when guys are in trees with cameras. I think from then moving forward, everything should be questioned, kind of like when you get together with Russian mobsters. You know what I mean? Like after that, everything is sort of, what aren't you willing to do if you're putting guys in trees with cameras, I think everything becomes believable.
I think you make a good point there. And certainly, this book is really, it's independent. It doesn't really take one side over the other to a degree. We're journalists and we went where the evidence certainly took us. I've written about terrorism. I've written about organized crime. I'm not a sports writer and wouldn't just put my name on anything to make any team that was playing in my area look good. I don't
right, sure.
give a damn about that. What I was really interested in was this, political chicanery and this palace intrigue and deceit and betrayal on both sides. The Patriots and the NFL. And I think, readers that pick up the book will really, gain some knowledge and some interest in it. And this is also a story about corporate America, Nestor. It's a story about big business. And if a corporation can make, it's the face of the entire league heel and be controlled, what's that to say about that, sixth round draft pick with the Steelers or with the Ravens barely hanging on to a roster spot? Shows that they have no power, they have no control, and the owners own everything.
Casey, can you understand? I mean, on the deflate thing, and I rarely ask this question. I don't talk about this topic anymore because I'm a little bit bored by it. But just from your perspective as the writer and putting the tone into your book, do you believe Tom Brady legitimately and willfully ordered or orchestrated or sanctioned taking air out of footballs in a knowingly and willfully saying, I want less air in the football? Is that a fact or is that not a fact?
Yeah, I mean, that's different than saying that Brady ordered the code red. I think Brady certainly told his equipment managers he liked his ball a certain way, much like Aaron Rodgers does.
Illegal. I like it illegally underinflated, right? Literally,
or
right?
illegally overinflated. I don't think Brady has any idea what a PSI was. at that time. He liked his balls a certain way. His equipment guys, placated their quarterback, and the cover-up is much bigger than the crime. I don't think, and tests have proven that deflated footballs or overly inflated footballs really do not provide a competitive edge on the football field, especially when you're dealing with a guy like Tom Brady.
Well, all right, it's football season at some point, so we can't talk baseball here, dude, because we don't have a baseball team here anymore.
You don't have a baseball team, and the Red Sox are the best team in the world right now. So
they got to worry about Game 1.
True.
Hey, man.
I've always liked the Orioles, so I'm a big Orioles fan, and Dan Duquette was certainly a guy from Boston for a long time. So you've got teams in your area, and you're incredibly passionate about it, which is ultimately the best thing. What is sports? It elicits this passion, it's drama, it's intrigue, it's all the things that me as a writer, I certainly really gravitate toward those types of elements. And then you look at the Super Bowl. The Patriots won against the Atlanta Falcons, and that unfolded as a tale of two halves and one of the great performances in any sport of all time.
No doubt. I was there. I witnessed it, and I still can't believe it. Neither can they in Atlanta. 12.
Well, you're probably one of the only ones who stayed in the stadium because you didn't have a dog in the fight. I know a lot of Patriots fans, including Mark Wahlberg, they left that game.
Well, and now they'll have to tell that story. I walked out of the Lenny Dykstra home run game up in New York 32 years ago. I'm still telling that story. I've walked out of no-hitters as well, but I didn't walk out of that one. 12, the inside story of Tom Brady's fight for redemption. Casey Sherman is our guest. He writes books. You can find him out on Twitter at Casey Sherman 123. Good luck with the book. It's been an interesting debate. It's football season, so we have to talk about Tom Brady around here. And if things go well, we'll be seeing you in January, as we usually do. We think the Ravens are going to be pretty good this year, Case.
Yeah, no, I do too. I love the conversation, Nestor. Good luck to the Ravens this season. We'll see you in January in Foxborough.
12, the inside story of Tom Brady's fight for redemption, because it's always in Foxborough, which, allows us to have a little road trip and get some chowder along the way. I am Nestor. You can find me out in the Bahia, Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox. It's free. You sign up once. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. And, of course, also brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club and Laurel, where they're racing this weekend, and the race entries are in our morning newspaper each and every morning, as well as on the front of WNST.net. Just click on the little Laurel tab there, and away you go down to the sports book and the air-conditioned confines of what they've done down there. If you haven't been to Laurel lately, make sure you're checking it out this summer. And the Maryland Million, hold the date, October the 20th. On the weekend of October the 14th, we have our road trip to Nashville for the Ravens-Titans matchup, my 50th birthday weekend. Big celebration down in the Music City. If you want to join us, please act quickly. I got some seats left, but we have a deadline coming up in a couple of weeks. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.